The barbell hit the rack with a metallic clang that echoed through my basement gym at 2:15 in the morning. Sweat dripped from my forehead onto the concrete floor as I sat up on the bench, staring at the ceiling where the sound of Lara's phone buzzing had been driving me insane for the past hour. My name's Ben Carrick, and I've been married to Lara for 8 years. 8 years of what I thought was a decent marriage, built on trust and mutual respect. Turns out, I was wrong about the trust part. The phone buzzed again upstairs, then again, and again. Jesus Christ, I muttered, grabbing my towel and heading up to our bedroom. Lara was sprawled across our king-size bed, dead asleep, her phone lighting up like a Christmas tree on the nightstand. I picked it up, and the screen showed 17 unread messages from TK. TK, Troy Kemp, the pretty boy personal trainer at Lara's gym, the guy with the perfect abs and the IQ of a houseplant. I didn't need to read the messages to know what they said. The timestamps told the whole story. Messages at 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., and now past 2. Nobody texts their trainer at 2 in the morning unless they're doing more than discussing workout routines. I set the phone back down and looked at my wife. Even in sleep, Lara maintained that perfectly composed look she wore like armor. Her blonde hair was arranged just so on the pillow, her skincare routine having left her face glowing. She looked like she belonged in a magazine spread about successful corporate women. Lara worked in PR for Morrison and Associates, one of the biggest firms in Portland. She made good money, drove a BMW, and belonged to the exclusive Harbor Club downtown. She was everything I wasn't: polished, connected, sophisticated. Me? I was a contractor. I built things with my hands, drove a pickup truck, and my idea of fine dining was the local sports bar. We were opposites, but I'd always thought that worked for us. Apparently, Lara had other ideas. The phone buzzed again. This time I did look at the preview. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was incredible. My jaw clenched so hard I thought I might crack a tooth. 8 years of marriage, and this is what it came to. My wife sneaking around with some muscle-bound idiot who probably couldn't spell incredible without autocorrect. I went back downstairs and loaded more weight onto the bar. Nothing like midnight bench pressing to deal with a cheating wife. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, working out in my basement while my wife was probably dreaming about her trainer. At 6 a.m. I heard Lara's alarm go off. Then the shower. Then the familiar sounds of her morning routine: coffee maker, blow dryer, heels clicking across the hardwood floor. She appeared in the kitchen wearing a black dress that hugged every curve, her makeup flawless. "You're up early," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Couldn't sleep. I leaned against the counter, studying her face. Your phone was buzzing all night. Something flickered across her expression. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being caught. Probably work stuff. You know how Morrison is about deadlines. At 2 in the morning? She shrugged, pouring coffee into her travel mug. Crisis management doesn't keep normal hours. I almost laughed. Crisis management. That was one way to put it. "I'll be late tonight," she continued. "Client dinner. With Morrison? With the team." She grabbed her purse and keys, finally looking at me directly. "Don't wait up." After she left, I sat in the kitchen drinking coffee and thinking. Lara had been pulling away for months, working late, going out with friends, spending more time at the gym. I'd attributed it to stress, maybe a midlife crisis. Turned out it was just good old-fashioned adultery. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I could confront her directly, but that would just lead to denials and lies. I could hire a private investigator, but that felt pathetic. Or I could handle this my way, methodically, carefully, and with maximum impact. By the time I finished my second cup of coffee, I'd made my decision. If Lara wanted to play games, I'd show her how a real player operated. I called my crew and told them I'd be late to the job site. Then I drove to Elite Fitness, the upscale gym where Lara had been a member for 2 years. The same gym where Troy Kemp worked his magic on bored housewives and corporate climbers looking for excitement. The gym was busy with the morning crowd, lawyers and executives squeezing in workouts before heading to their offices. I recognized a few faces from around town, including Casey Brennan, Laura's best friend who worked the front desk. Casey was everything you'd expect from someone who worked at an upscale gym, perfectly toned, artificially tanned, and surgically enhanced. She was also the biggest gossip in Portland, which made her incredibly useful. "Ben!" she called out when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" "Laura's not in today." "Actually, I was thinking about joining," I said, leaning on the counter. "Laura's always talking about how great this place is." Casey's eyes lit up. She loved recruiting new members, especially ones with money. "Oh, you'd love it here. We have the best trainers in the city. Troy's amazing. He's been working with Laura for months now." "Troy, huh? Maybe I should talk to him." "He's with a client right now, but I can set up a consultation." She pulled out a tablet and started scrolling. "He's really good with personal attention." The way she said it made my skin crawl. Did everyone know about Laura and Troy except me? "You know what? Let me think about it," I said. "But I'm curious. Do you guys have security cameras for safety?" Casey nodded. "Oh yeah, everywhere. Rick is paranoid about liability. Cameras in all the workout areas, locker rooms, entrances, parking lot, the whole 9 yards. Rick was the gym manager, a former Marine who ran the place like a military operation. He was also someone I'd done work for. I'd renovated his kitchen the previous year." "That's smart," I said. "Well, I should get going. Tell Laura I stopped by if you see her." "Will do." And think about that membership. Troy really is the best. I bet he was. That afternoon, I paid Rick Morrison a visit at his house. Rick lived in a modest ranch-style home in the suburbs, a far cry from the flashy lifestyle you might expect from someone who managed an upscale gym. But Rick was practical, just like me. "Ben!" Rick opened the door with a genuine smile. "Good to see you, man. How's the kitchen holding up?" "Perfect. Your wife still happy with the granite countertops?" "She loves them. Come on in. Want a beer?" We sat in his living room, making small talk about work and family. Eventually, I steered the conversation toward the gym. "Business good at Elite?" Rick shrugged. "Can't complain. Members keep paying their dues and we stay busy, though I gotta say, some of the trainers are more trouble than they're worth." "How so?" Rick took a long pull from his beer. "Let's just say some of them think the job comes with extra benefits. I've had to have conversations about maintaining professional boundaries." "Ah." I nodded knowingly. "That kind of trouble." "Exactly. And it's always the same type. Good-looking guy thinks he's God's gift, starts getting too friendly with the female clients, creates drama, jealous husbands, the whole mess. Must be bad for business. Terrible. I've been looking for a reason to clean house, but I need documentation. Can't just fire someone because I don't like their attitude." I leaned forward. "What kind of documentation?" Rick met my eyes. "The kind that shows they're violating their employment contract. Using gym facilities for personal business, inappropriate conduct with clients, that sort of thing." "And you'd have that on your security cameras?" "If it happened on gym property, yeah. But reviewing all that footage takes time, and I don't have much of that." I finished my beer and stood up. "Rick, what if I told you I might be able to help with that, as a favor, for a friend?" Rick's expression didn't change, but I saw understanding in his eyes. "I'd say I appreciate friends who look out for each other." "Good. I'll be in touch." The next morning, I called in another favor. My neighbor, Frank Barlow, was a retired Portland police detective who'd moved next door 3 years ago. Frank was in his 60s, lived alone since his wife died, and had become something of a father figure to me. I found him in his garage, working on a classic Mustang convertible. "Nice car," I said, admiring the pristine paint job. 1967 fastback. Been restoring her for 2 years. Frank wiped his hands on a rag and looked at me. You didn't come here to talk about cars, though. Frank had always been able to read people. It's what made him a good cop. I need some advice, legal advice. What kind of trouble are you in? I'm not in trouble. Yet. But I might be soon. I told Frank everything. Lara's affair, the late-night texts, my suspicions about Troy. Frank listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding. So, what do you want to do about it? He asked when I finished. I want to make them pay. Both of them. But I want to do it right. No criminal charges, no lawsuits I can't win. Frank smiled grimly. You want revenge, but you want it legal. Exactly. Smart man. Stupid men end up in jail or divorce court, losing everything. Smart men make their problems go away permanently. He leaned against the workbench. First rule, document everything. Dates, times, evidence. Build a case like you're going to trial, already started. Good. Second rule, never do anything that could be construed as threatening or violent. You want to destroy them socially and professionally, not physically. Understood. Third rule, always have plausible deniability. If someone asks if you're behind something, you should be able to look them in the eye and say no. Frank reached into a toolbox and pulled out a small digital recorder. This is voice-activated, good for 12 hours of recording. Stick it somewhere she won't find it. Let her hang herself with her own words. I took the device. It was smaller than a pack of gum. Frank, I appreciate this, but why are you helping me? The old man's expression hardened. Because I've seen what cheating wives do to good men. My partner, 25 years on the force, ate his gun when he found out his wife was screwing his captain. Good men deserve better. That evening, I waited for Lara to come home from her client dinner. She walked in at 11:30, her lipstick gone and her hair slightly mussed. How was dinner? I asked from the couch, not looking up from the TV. Fine. Long. Morrison's being a pain about the Henderson account. She headed for the stairs, but I stood up, blocking her path. Lara, we need to talk. Something in my tone made her freeze. About what? About TK. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. I don't know what you're talking about. Troy Kemp, your trainer, the guy who's been texting you at all hours. She crossed her arms defensively. Troy is my personal trainer. Sometimes he sends workout reminders or nutrition tips. At 2 a.m, he works odd hours. I pulled out my phone and read from the screenshots I'd taken. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was incredible. Your husband has no idea how lucky he is. Lara's mask finally slipped. For a moment I saw panic in her eyes, then something else, defiance. You went through my phone? It was buzzing all night. I was curious. You had no right. I had every right. I'm your husband. She laughed, and the sound was like ice. My husband. Right. When's the last time you took me somewhere nice, Ben? When's the last time you made me feel beautiful, or desired, or like I was worth more than a quick fuck before bed? The words hit like physical blows, but I kept my expression neutral. So you decided to find that with Troy? Yes, I did. And you know what? He makes me feel alive again. He makes me feel like a woman instead of a contractor's wife who gets taken to Applebee's for her birthday. I'd never taken her to Applebee's for her birthday. Last year it was the Harbor Club. The year before, a weekend in Boston. But facts weren't going to matter now. How long? I asked. 3 months. Are you in love with him? She hesitated. I don't know. Maybe. He's everything you're not. Young and stupid. Young and passionate. And he actually cares about how he looks, how he presents himself to the world. He has ambition. He's a personal trainer, Lara. His biggest ambition is probably getting his picture on the gym's website. Her eyes flashed. At least he's not content to spend his whole life building other people's dreams while his own wife dies of boredom. That was the moment I knew our marriage was over. Not because of the cheating. People recovered from affairs all the time. But because of the contempt in her voice, the casual cruelty of her words. She didn't just want out of our marriage. She wanted to destroy me on her way out. So what happens now? I asked. Now you decide if you want to fight this or make it easy on both of us. What would easy look like? Uncontested divorce. We split everything 50-50 and we both move on with our lives. I almost laughed. After 8 years of marriage, after building a life together, she wanted to walk away with half of everything I'd worked for so she could play house with a guy who probably still lived with roommates. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think too long, Ben. I'm not going to put my life on hold while you process this. She started up the stairs, then turned back. And Ben? Troy knows about this conversation. I tell him everything. After she went to bed, I sat in my kitchen and planned my next move. Lara thought she held all the cards, but she was wrong. She'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. I activated Frank's recorder and hid it in our bedroom, behind the headboard where she'd never think to look. Then I opened my laptop and started researching Troy Kemp. By morning, I'd learned everything I needed to know about my wife's lover. And I'd figured out exactly how to destroy both of them. Troy Kemp was 26 years old, drove a red Mustang convertible, and lived in a studio apartment on the wrong side of town. He'd been working at Elite Fitness for 18 months, long enough to build a reputation as the trainer who gave special attention to his female clients. According to his social media profiles, Troy was single, loved working out, and thought he was God's gift to women. His Instagram was full of shirtless selfies and motivational quotes about living your best life. He had the kind of cocky confidence that came from being good-looking and never being seriously challenged. That was about to change. I spent the morning at my job site, going through the motions of supervising my crew while my mind worked on the problem of Troy and Lara. My guys, Marty, Dave, and Carlos, could tell something was wrong, but they knew better than to ask. We'd worked together for 5 years, and they trusted me to handle my own business. Around noon, I got a call from Rick at the gym. Ben, you got a minute? I found something you might want to see. I'll be right there. Elite Fitness was busy with the lunch crowd when I arrived. Rick was waiting for me in his office, a small room behind the front desk cluttered with paperwork and security monitors. Close the door, he said. I did, and Rick turned his computer screen toward me. It showed security footage from the gym's main workout area, time-stamped from the previous evening. Watch this, Rick said, hitting play. The footage showed Lara and Troy in the corner of the gym, supposedly doing a training session. But their body language told a different story. Troy's hands lingered too long when spotting her, and Lara leaned into him in ways that had nothing to do with proper form. That's not the good part, Rick said, fast-forwarding the video. This is... The timestamp jumped to after closing time. The gym was empty except for Lara and Troy, who were using the massage room for activities that definitely weren't therapeutic. They've been doing this for weeks, Rick said. Always after hours, always when they think no one's watching. But you were watching. The cameras were watching. I just happened to review the footage. Rick ejected a USB drive from his computer and handed it to me. This is a copy. Do with it what you want. What about your employee problem? Rick smiled coldly. Troy's shift ends today. Permanently. Violation of his employment contract, using gym facilities for personal business. And Lara? Her membership gets revoked for the same reason. I run a business, not a brothel. I pocketed the USB drive. Rick, I owe you one. We're even. Just be careful how you use that. I don't want it coming back on the gym. It won't. That afternoon, I drove to Casey's apartment. Lara's best friend lived in a trendy complex downtown, the kind of place with a doorman and valet parking. Casey's lifestyle was funded by her job at the gym, plus whatever she could extract from the various men she dated. Ben. Casey seemed surprised to see me at her door. "What are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you about Laura." Casey's expression became guarded. "What about her? Can I come in?" "This isn't a conversation for the hallway." She stepped aside reluctantly, and I entered her pristine apartment. Everything was white and chrome, like a magazine spread. "Casey, I know about Lara and Troy." She tried to look shocked. "What about them?" "Don't. I have video." That got her attention. Casey sank onto her white leather couch, suddenly looking older than her 32 years. "How much do you know?" she asked. "Everything. The question is, how much do you want to stay involved?" Casey was many things, but stupid wasn't one of them. She could see which way the wind was blowing. "What do you want from me?" "Information and cooperation." "What kind of information?" I sat across from her, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. "I want to know their schedule. Where they go, when they meet, who else knows about this? And if I don't help you?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot from the gym's security footage. Casey unlocking the gym after hours, letting Lara and Troy inside. Rick's already fired Troy and revoked Lara's membership, but he could also press charges for breaking and entering, conspiracy, whatever else his lawyers can think of. Casey's face went pale. "I could lose my job." "You're going to lose your job anyway. Rick knows you've been helping them. The question is whether you lose just your job or everything else too." She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." For the next hour, Casey told me everything she knew about Lara and Troy's affair. They'd been meeting 3 times a week, sometimes at the gym, sometimes at Troy's apartment. Lara had been paying for hotel rooms when they wanted somewhere nicer. She'd also been giving Troy money, supposedly for personal training sessions that never appeared on any gym records. "She's obsessed with him," Casey said. "Talks about him constantly, how he makes her feel young again, how he understands her in ways you never did." "What does Troy say about her?" Casey looked uncomfortable. He talks about her differently." "How differently?" "Like she's a meal ticket. He calls her his sugar mama when she's not around, says she's good for at least 6 months of easy money." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Bad enough that my wife was cheating, worse that she was being played by a guy who saw her as nothing more than a source of income. "There's something else," Casey said quietly. "Lara's been talking about divorce. She thinks she can get half of everything and then move in with Troy." "What does Troy think about that plan?" "He's not as enthusiastic. I think he likes the situation the way it is. All the benefits of a relationship with a successful woman, none of the commitment." I stood up to leave. "Casey, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Keep being Lara's friend. Keep listening to her plans, and keep me informed." "Why would I do that?" I showed her the screenshot again. "Because the alternative is explaining to a judge why you helped them break into the gym." Casey nodded reluctantly. "What are you going to do?" What I should have done months ago. That evening, I waited for Lara to come home. She walked in at 7:30, earlier than usual, and I could tell immediately that something was wrong. "Bad day?" I asked. She threw her purse on the counter harder than necessary. "Rick fired Troy." "The gym manager?" "Why?" "Some bullshit about violating his employment contract, and he revoked my membership too." I tried to look surprised. "What did you do?" "Nothing." That's what makes this so infuriating. Rick claims we were using gym facilities inappropriately, but he won't say exactly what that means. "Maybe someone complained." Lara's eyes narrowed. "Maybe someone did." We stared at each other across the kitchen, and I could see her trying to figure out if I was behind Rick's decision. "Where's Troy going to work now?" I asked. "He's looking at other gyms." "There are plenty of places that would be lucky to have him." "I'm sure. Ben, I want you to know that this doesn't change anything between us. Troy and I are still together, and I still want a divorce." "Understood." She seemed taken aback by my calm response. "That's it? You're not going to fight for our marriage? You made it pretty clear that our marriage is over. I'm not going to beg you to stay with someone who makes you happy." "Oh." She looked almost disappointed. "Well, good. I'm glad you're being mature about this. I try to be." After she went upstairs, I sat in my kitchen and smiled for the first time in days. Lara thought she was in control, but she was wrong. She'd just lost her playground. Troy had lost his income, and they were both scrambling to figure out what had happened. This was just the beginning. The next morning, I was up early, coffee in hand, when Lara came downstairs dressed for work. She looked tired, and I noticed she'd been on her phone more than usual. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Troy's having trouble finding a new job. Apparently Rick has been talking to other gym managers." I tried to look sympathetic. "That's rough. Maybe he should consider a different line of work." Lara's eyes flashed. "He's a talented trainer. He shouldn't have to change careers because of one vindictive manager." Rick didn't strike me as vindictive, more like thorough. "You don't know him like I do." Actually, I knew Rick better than she thought, but I kept that to myself. "What's Troy going to do for money in the meantime?" "He'll figure something out." But her tone suggested she was worried about the same thing. After Lara left for work, I made a few phone calls. Portland wasn't a huge city, and the fitness industry was smaller than most people realized. Rick had indeed been talking to other gym managers, sharing his concerns about Troy's professionalism. It wasn't blackballing exactly, but it was close enough. By noon, I had confirmation that 3 other gyms had decided not to hire Troy after speaking with Rick. Word was getting around that he was trouble. I spent the afternoon working on a kitchen renovation in the suburbs, but my mind was on the next phase of my plan. Destroying Troy's career was satisfying, but it wasn't enough. I needed to hit them both where it really hurt. That evening, I got a call from Casey. "We need to talk," she said. "In person." "What's wrong?" "Just meet me at Murphy's bar in an hour." Murphy's was a dive bar downtown, the kind of place where construction workers and cops went to drink away their problems. It was also dark, loud, and private, perfect for conversations you didn't want overheard. I found Casey in a corner booth, nursing a whiskey and looking nervous. "What's going on?" I asked, sliding in across from her. "Lara came to see me today. She knows someone tipped off Rick about her and Troy." "What did you tell her?" "Nothing." I acted just as surprised as she was, but Ben, she's suspicious. She asked if I thought you might be behind it. "What did you say?" "I told her you didn't seem like the type to play games, that if you knew about the affair, you'd confront her directly." Smart answer. It fit with how everyone saw me, straightforward, honest, maybe a little naive. "There's something else," Casey continued. "Lara's getting desperate. Troy's been pressuring her for money, and she's talking about taking out a loan against the house." That got my attention. "Our house?" "She seems to think she can do it without your signature. Something about having power of attorney for financial matters." I felt cold anger wash over me. Lara didn't have power of attorney for anything, but she might try to forge documents or find some other way to access our equity. The house was worth $400,000, and we had about $200,000 in equity. "Casey, I need you to do something for me." "What now?" "I need you to encourage Lara to be more open about her relationship with Troy. Tell her she should stop hiding and start living authentically." Casey frowned. "Why?" "Because people can't judge what they can't see. If Lara keeps sneaking around, she looks guilty. But if she's open about it, she looks confident." It was a lie, of course. I wanted Lara to be more public about the affair because public scandals were harder to recover from, but Casey didn't need to know that. I don't know, Ben. That seems like it could backfire. Trust me. Lara's smart and successful. She can handle a little gossip. Casey agreed reluctantly, and we parted ways. I drove home through the quiet streets of Portland, thinking about my next move. When I got home, Lara was in the living room with her laptop, surrounded by financial documents. Working late? I asked. Just reviewing our assets. For the divorce. I sat down across from her. Find anything interesting? We have more equity in the house than I thought, and your business is worth more than you've been letting on. She was fishing, trying to figure out exactly how much money was at stake. I decided to give her something to think about. The business is doing well, I agreed. We landed that contract for the new shopping center. Should be worth about $200,000 over the next year. It was true, though I hadn't mentioned it before. Lara's eyes lit up with greed. That's wonderful news. Yeah, of course, most of it will go back into equipment and hiring more guys. But still, it's a good problem to have. I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much she could claim in a divorce. What she didn't know was that I'd already moved most of the business assets into a separate corporation that she had no claim on. Ben, I've been thinking about what you said, about making this easy on both of us. Oh? Maybe we could work out an agreement without lawyers, save everyone time and money. What kind of agreement? I keep the house, you keep the business. We split the savings and retirement accounts 50-50. I almost laughed. The house was worth twice what the business showed on paper, and she knew it. That seems fair, I said, but I'd want to have a lawyer review any agreement, just to make sure we're both protected. Of course. I just think we can be civilized about this. Absolutely. After she went to bed, I called Frank Barlow. She's trying to screw you, he said after I explained Lara's proposal. I know, but I'm not going to let that happen. What's your next move? I'm going to give her exactly what she wants. And then I'm going to make sure she regrets it. Frank chuckled. I like the way you think, son. The next morning, I put the second phase of my plan into motion. I called Jenna Walsh, another of Lara's friends who worked at Morrison and Associates. Jenna was ambitious, underpaid, and always looking for ways to get ahead. Ben! What a surprise. Is everything okay with Lara? Actually, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Could we meet for coffee? I need some advice about something. We met at a Starbucks near her office. Jenna was a sharp-looking woman in her early 30s, the kind of person who networked aggressively and always had an agenda. So what's going on? She asked after we'd gotten our drinks. Lara and I are getting divorced. Jenna's eyes widened with what looked like genuine surprise. Oh my God, Ben, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you two were having problems. It's been building for a while. The thing is, I'm worried about how this might affect her career. I know how important her reputation is at Morrison. What do you mean? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. There's another man involved. Someone much younger. I'm afraid if word gets out, it might hurt her professionally. Jenna's expression shifted from sympathy to interest. Office gossip was currency in the PR world, and she'd just been handed a gold mine. Who is it? I'd rather not say. The point is, I want to protect Lara, even though our marriage is over, but I'm not sure how. Well, Jenna said carefully, these things have a way of coming out eventually. The best thing might be for Lara to control the narrative herself. What do you mean? Be honest with people she trusts. Frame it as two people who grew apart and found happiness elsewhere. Better than having people find out through gossip. It was exactly what I'd hoped she'd say. Jenna would go straight back to the office and start spreading the story, framing it as concern for Lara's well-being. That's good advice, I said. I just want what's best for her. You're a good man, Ben. Lara's lucky to have someone who cares about her reputation even after, you know. We finished our coffee and parted ways. By the end of the day, half of Morrison and Associates would know that Laura Carrick was having an affair with a younger man. That evening, I waited for the fallout. Laura came home that night like a thunderstorm, slamming doors and throwing her briefcase down with enough force to rattle the windows. "Bad day at the office?" I asked from the kitchen. "Someone's been talking." Her voice was ice-cold fury. Someone told people at work about Troy. I looked up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. What did they say? That I'm having an affair with a younger man. That we're getting divorced because I'm going through some kind of midlife crisis. Are you? The question seemed to catch her off guard. Am I what? Going through a midlife crisis. This isn't a joke, Ben. My reputation is being destroyed. By who? I don't know. That's what makes it so infuriating. It could be anyone. Casey, someone from the gym, maybe even you. I set down the newspaper and looked at her directly. Laura, do you really think I'd try to hurt your career, even after everything that's happened? She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to read my face. No, she said finally. You're not that vindictive. Thank you. But someone is. Someone wants to make me look bad. Or maybe, I said gently, word just got out. These things happen in a city this size. People talk. Laura sank into a chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Morrison called me into his office today. He didn't say anything directly, but he made it clear that he expects his senior staff to maintain certain standards. What kind of standards? The kind that don't include public scandals. I felt a flicker of sympathy for her, which surprised me. Whatever else she'd done, Laura had worked hard to build her career. Watching it crumble because of her affair with Troy had to be devastating. What are you going to do? I don't know. Troy thinks we should just ignore the gossip, let it blow over. What do you think? I think Troy doesn't understand how the professional world works. He's never had a career that could be destroyed by reputation. It was the first crack I'd seen in her faith in Troy, and I filed it away for future use. Maybe you should take some time off, I suggested. Let things cool down. I can't. We're in the middle of 3 major campaigns. If I disappear now, Morrison will assume I can't handle the pressure. Then you'll have to weather the storm. She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her eyes. For the first time since this whole thing started, Laura looked vulnerable. The next morning, I got a call from Marty, my foreman. Boss, we got a problem at the Henderson job site. What kind of problem? Some asshole in a red Mustang keeps driving by, real slow, like he's casing the place. Yesterday, he got out and started asking questions about you. My blood went cold. What kind of questions? Where you live, what kind of money you make, whether you're married? The guys told him to get lost, but he came back this morning. Troy. The idiot was trying to gather information about me, probably at Laura's suggestion. Marty, I need you and the boys to do something for me. Name it, boss. Next time this guy shows up, I want you to have a conversation with him. Nothing violent, just make it clear that he's not welcome. Consider it done. And Marty? Take pictures if you can. I want documentation of everything. That afternoon, I got a text from Marty with 3 photos attached. The first showed Troy's red Mustang parked across from our job site. The second showed Troy himself, standing next to the car with his phone out, apparently taking pictures. The third showed Troy in animated conversation with Marty and 2 other members of my crew. I called Marty immediately. What did he want? Same as before. Information about you. But this time he was more aggressive about it. Said he had a right to know what kind of man his girlfriend was married to. His girlfriend? That's what he called her. Real cocky about it too, like he was marking territory. I felt anger surge through me, hot and clean. Troy wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was publicly claiming her, trying to intimidate me. What did you tell him? That his girlfriend was still married to you, and if he had questions, he could ask you directly. Then we suggested he might want to find somewhere else to spend his afternoons. How did he take that? Marty chuckled, about like you'd expect. Lots of tough talk about how he wasn't afraid of some construction workers. Right up until Dave mentioned that harassment was a crime and we had his license plate number. Dave was our biggest crew member, 6'4" and built like a linebacker. He also had a law degree, which made him uniquely qualified to deliver legal threats. Did he leave? Peeled rubber getting out of there, but boss, I don't think this is over. This guy's got that look. You know the one. I knew the look. I'd seen it on men who thought they were tougher than they actually were, right up until reality taught them otherwise. Keep an eye out, I told Marty, and let me know if he comes back. That evening, I waited for Lara to bring up Troy's visit to my job site. She came home late, looking stressed, but didn't mention it. How was work? I asked. Terrible. Morrison's been giving me the cold shoulder all day, and 2 clients asked to be reassigned to other account managers. Because of the gossip? Because of the gossip, she confirmed bitterly. Apparently having an affair makes me unsuitable to handle family-friendly brands. I'm sorry. She looked at me suspiciously. Are you? Really? Lara, whatever's happened between us, I never wanted to see your career destroyed. It was mostly true. I wanted consequences for her actions, but I hadn't anticipated how quickly her professional life would unravel. Troy thinks I should quit Morrison and start my own firm. What do you think? I think Troy doesn't understand that starting a PR firm requires capital, connections, and credibility. Right now, I'm short on all 3. Another crack in the foundation. Lara was starting to see Troy as he really was, long on opinions, short on practical solutions. Maybe things will blow over, I said. Maybe. But she didn't sound convinced. After she went to bed, I sat in my kitchen and planned the final phase of my revenge. Lara and Troy had pushed too far, and now it was time to push back. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Jake Morrison, Rick's brother, was a private investigator who specialized in insurance fraud and background checks. Jake, it's Ben Carrick. I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind that involves digging up information on someone who's been bothering me. Legal information? Completely legal. Public records, employment history, that sort of thing. Give me a name. Troy Kemp. There was a pause. The personal trainer? What's he done? Let's just say he's been taking a personal interest in my marriage. Jake chuckled. Say no more. Give me 48 hours. 2 days later, Jake called back with a full report on Troy Kemp. What he'd found was even better than I'd hoped. Troy had been fired from his previous job for inappropriate conduct with clients. He'd been evicted from 2 apartments for non-payment of rent. He had outstanding warrants for unpaid traffic tickets and a suspended driver's license. But the best part was his criminal record. 2 arrests for domestic violence. Both charges dropped when the women involved refused to testify. This guy's a real piece of work, Jake said. You want me to do anything with this information? Just send me copies of everything. I'll handle the rest. That night, I made copies of Troy's background check and mailed them anonymously to 3 people. Morrison at the PR firm, the manager of the gym where Troy was trying to get hired, and Lara's parents. Then I sat back and waited for the explosion. The explosion came sooner than I expected. I was at the job site the next morning when my phone rang. It was Lara, and she was screaming. What did you do? Good morning to you too. What are you talking about? Someone sent Morrison a background check on Troy. Criminal record, domestic violence, the whole thing. I tried to sound surprised. Who would do that? I don't know, but Morrison is furious. He called me into his office and asked if I was aware that I was dating a criminal. What did you tell him? I told him my personal life was none of his business. Then he told me that as long as I work for his firm, everything I do reflects on the company. That seems harsh. He's putting me on administrative leave pending a review of my judgment and professionalism. Administrative leave. That was corporate speak for, you're probably getting fired. I'm sorry, Lara. Are you? Because this is awfully convenient for you. First the gym, now my job. It's like someone's systematically destroying my life. Maybe you should ask yourself who benefits from that. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Just, maybe Troy isn't the victim here. There was a long pause. What are you saying? I'm saying that Troy's problems existed long before he met you. Maybe someone who really cared about you would have been honest about his past. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, processing what I'd said. I have to go, she said finally, and hung up. That afternoon I got a call from Frank Barlow. You might want to come over here, he said. We have a visitor. I found Frank in his garage with Troy Kemp. Troy looked like he'd been in a fight. His lip was split, and there was a bruise forming under his left eye. What happened to him? I asked. He came here looking for you, Frank said. Started making threats about what he was going to do when he found you. I explained that threatening people in front of a retired cop wasn't the smartest move. Troy glared at me with undisguised hatred. You think you're real smart, don't you? Smarter than you, apparently. What do you want, Troy? I want you to stop screwing with my life. I haven't done anything to your life. Your life was already screwed up when I met you. Bullshit. Someone's been sabotaging me, and you're the only one with a motive. I looked at Frank, who shrugged. Kid's got a point about the motive. Troy, I said, let me explain something to you. I didn't have to sabotage you. You sabotaged yourself the moment you decided to sleep with my wife. She came to me. I don't care who came to who. The point is, you made a choice, and choices have consequences. Troy took a step toward me, but Frank moved between us. Easy there, son. You're already in enough trouble. What trouble? Troy asked. Frank smiled. Well, there's the outstanding warrants, the suspended license, the fact that you've been driving illegally for 6 months. Then there's the harassment charges Ben could file for your visits to his job site. I wasn't harassing anyone. You were taking pictures of his employees, asking personal questions about his finances, and making threats. That's harassment. Troy looked back and forth between us, and I could see him realizing that he was in over his head. This isn't over, he said. Yeah, it is, I replied. It's been over since the day you decided you were smarter than everyone else. Troy left, but not before Frank got his license plate number and took pictures of his car with his phone. Think he'll be back? I asked. Not if he's smart. But then again, if he was smart, he wouldn't be in this mess. That evening, Lara came home looking defeated. She sat at the kitchen table without saying a word, staring at her hands. Rough day? I asked. Morrison fired me. I sat down across from her. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're getting exactly what you wanted. What I wanted was a faithful wife. Everything else is just fallout. She looked up at me, and I saw tears in her eyes for the first time since this whole thing started. I know you hate me, she said. I don't hate you, Lara. I'm disappointed in you, but I don't hate you. Troy says you're trying to destroy us. What do you think? She was quiet for a long moment. I think Troy says a lot of things. Most of them aren't true. Like what? Like how he was going to take care of me after the divorce. Like how we were going to start a new life together. She laughed bitterly. Turns out, Troy's idea of taking care of me was having me pay for everything. When did you figure that out? When I lost my job, and he suggested I should ask you for money to help him pay his rent. I felt a moment of satisfaction, followed, immediately by something that might have been pity. What are you going to do now? I don't know. My career is ruined, my reputation is shot, and I'm involved with a man who apparently has a history of hitting women. You could leave him. And then what? Crawl back to you and beg forgiveness? I wasn't going to suggest that. She looked at me sharply. What were you going to suggest? That you figure out what you really want, instead of what other people want for you. I wanted excitement. I wanted to feel desired again. And did you? For a while. But excitement is expensive, and feeling desired doesn't pay the bills. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Lara spoke again. Ben, I know I hurt you, and I know there's probably no way back from this, but I need you to know that I never meant for things to go this far. How far did you mean for them to go? I thought I could have both. The security of our marriage and the excitement of being with Troy. I thought I was smarter than other women who get caught. But you did get caught. Yeah, I did. She stood up to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I think you handled this better than I deserved. You could have made it much worse for me. After she went upstairs, I sat in my kitchen and thought about what she'd said. The truth was, I could have made it much worse. I still had the recording Frank had given me, plus hours of security footage from the gym. I had documentation of Troy's criminal history and evidence of Lara's affair that would have destroyed any chance she had of rebuilding her career. But looking at her tonight, defeated and alone, I realized I didn't want to destroy her completely. I wanted consequences for her actions, and I'd gotten them. Her affair had cost her job, her reputation, and her relationship with a man who'd never really cared about her. That felt like enough. The next morning, I found a note from Lara on the kitchen counter. Ben, I'm staying at Casey's for a while. We can talk about the divorce when I figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I'm sorry for everything. Lara. I poured myself a cup of coffee and read the note again. Then I called Frank. She's gone, I told him. How do you feel about that? Relieved, mostly. Maybe a little sad. That's normal. Even after everything she did, you were married for 8 years. What happens now? Now you rebuild your life. And you do it without people who don't appreciate what you have to offer. 3 weeks later, I got divorce papers in the mail. Lara was asking for a modest settlement, enough to get back on her feet, but nothing like the 50-50 split she'd originally demanded. She was also giving up any claim to the house or my business. I signed the papers without making any changes. A month after that, I heard through Casey that Lara had moved to Seattle, where she'd found a job with a smaller PR firm. Troy, meanwhile, had left town entirely after being arrested on those outstanding warrants. I never saw either of them again. 6 months later, I was having a beer at Murphy's bar when Rick from the gym sat down next to me. How you doing, Ben? Can't complain. Business is good. Life is quiet. How about you? Same. Hey, I wanted to thank you for helping me clean house at the gym. We haven't had any drama since Troy left. Glad I could help. Rick signaled the bartender for another round. You know, I always wondered how you knew to look at those security cameras. I took a sip of my beer and smiled. Lucky guess. Right. Lucky guess. Rick raised his glass. Here's to lucky guesses. And to friends who look out for each other. We drank to that, and I realized that for the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. My marriage was over, but I'd handled its end on my terms. I'd gotten justice without becoming the villain, and I'd learned something important about myself in the process. I was stronger than I'd thought, and I was definitely smarter than people gave me credit for. As I walked home that night through the quiet streets of Portland, I thought about what Frank had said about rebuilding my life. It was good advice. I had a successful business, good friends, and a house that was finally mine alone. Most importantly, I had my self-respect. That was something Troy would never understand, and something Lara had thrown away, but I still had it, and that made all the difference.